Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Curiosity Cove. My name is Veda.
Choccy.
Choccy, that's
I'm
me.
Choccy.
And I'm your trusty captain speaking, and today we'll be talking about Vastaya.
Vastaya.
Yay. For anybody who may
exciting.
not know, Vastaya are the animal shape-shifting human race in League of Legends.
Thingamabobs.
Um,
Yeah.
Technically, I guess it's the hybrid, between humans and Vastaya Sheree. It's like their offspring would be the Vastayan.
Oh.
Yeah. I remember that from back when we were talking about the regions, because I did
Yeah.
Ionia, and I remember that the Vastaya Sheree are like the native race where they can shapeshift into humans, but the actual hybrid between the two is just Vastayan.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, you would want the distinction anyways, because one could literally look like a human but have like an animal form and vice versa.
I
But
mean, I don't
one that's
speak...
in between is literally just like a person with like animalistic
Yeah. I don't
features.
speak Ionian, but I assume that the Sheree is probably something along the lines of native or natural born or original or ancestral or something like that. Because Nico's a Vastaya Sheree.
Oh.
So I don't know how many of them there actually still are, but
Is Nico the only one that is a Vastaya Sheree?
I actually have no idea. I just specifically remember when I looked into Nico, because I was actually just trying to figure out what her accent was supposed to be. And I remember looking into her, and her bio called her a Vastayan Sheree. So they're still out there, but I guess technically you would have to shapeshift. So does anybody else on the Rift shapeshift from animal to human? Or is it just
Nidalee?
Nidalee's probably Nidalee's probably Vastayan Sheree too then.
She doesn't shapeshift.
Oh, but yeah, okay, never mind. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Nar has a bigger form, but he's technically not humanoid at all.
Yeah, I think so.
Elise, but she has animal features already.
Elise is different because Elise's story is that she was I don't remember if we actually covered her or not, but I do know part of her lore is that she made a deal in the Shadow Isles to give her the power to shapeshift. So she's actually not Vastaya. She's like a normal ass human who was given a dark power to shapeshift.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Then Nidalee, I guess, is the only one I could think of, to be honest.
Maybe the next one we do is shapeshifters.
Ooh. True, we could. Okay, good idea.
All right, okay. Well, before we digress a little too much, how are you guys?
Yeah, how was your day, Choccy?
My day was pretty good. I got off work early, so I could chill out, which was nice. And I just played TFT, did some hanging out. I don't know. It was nice. It was a good day.
Nice.
How was your guys' day?
I wish I got to work early too, to be honest, but I stayed a little bit later because I had some extra cleaning to take care of. So I was like, ugh, what a drag. But I got myself a Subway sandwich when I got back, so that was really nice. Took a long hot shower just because I wanted me some me time, some self-care. And then I was excited for podcast, so I was on and ready. And I was farming before, merge things.
Oh yeah, of course. Dude, when I saw that tweet of all of you guys sitting there on Merge Valley, I was bursting out laughing. I was like, oh my god, this shit has spread so far.
Oh my god, it's so bad. But it's so much fun. I love it.
It is fun. I only pick it up very occasionally. Yeah. But I get lost in it for hours when I do. Yeah.
I was literally playing it while I was doing podcast stuff. So it's like the perfect if I need a little break from taking notes.
Pomodoro.
I just literally turn my different monitor, do a little thing, do a little merging, get some more crates. I'm like, all right, that's enough of a break. It's like about 5 minutes or so, and then I turn back and I continue. It's really good to keep up my pace with what I'm actually working on, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it works, right?
Preach. I'm one of those people who does, and I don't know if you guys do this too, But if I need to work on something or have multiple things to work on throughout the day, I like start with one and then take like a 5-10 minute break once I complete that full task. And then I do another one and I do another 5-10 minute break. It just helps
Like
me
five,
like
yeah.
take little breaks and keep moving along.
I do like 5 to 10 minutes of work, and then I do like a little treat, like a video game or something, and then I go back to it, and then I do like another 5 to 10 minutes, and then and then like a big treat, maybe like like a hot chocolate
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like incentive to keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah. How was your day, B Dog? How was your day?
I also got off work early.
Damn
So
it. Only me, man.
so the yeah, the day was pretty slow. We had a lot of people out of office for Labor Day.
Mm,
So we got let go, like, I mean, technically it's a half hour early for me, but it's an
still
hour
early.
early for the office. So yeah, we head out. I got to do some really cool stuff for social media this week, so I was kind of
Mm-hmm.
wrapping that up, and it's like we're doing like a custom item for one of the companies that we work with. And so I
Ooh.
got to sit there and watch them like spray it down and do like the coloring for it and everything, and did a time lapse of it,
Oh.
and it's very, very cool.
Oh, I
And it
love
was just
that.
like one of those little moments that made me like really appreciate and love my job. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it was like a pretty decent day because I was like riding off the high of like doing that, and then, I brought in cookies from my office because I'm such a trad wife.
Of
And
course, of course.
and everybody loved them. My mom made them, but I brought them in. So,
Take credit, bro. Take credit where credit is due.
Free credit.
dude, I
Free
couldn't.
credit.
The only reason, like the only point in the day that I took credit was my coworker we're a dog office, right? So we have dogs,
Of course.
and one of the puppos, um every time I pet him, the guy whose office he stays in, because I think it's his son's dog, because his son works out in the shop. um
Mm.
like he always jokes around that he's adding $1 to my tab, right? So he's like, your tab's getting a little high, and I was like, yeah, but I brought in cookies, does that do anything? And he goes, yeah, it balances out, we're good. And I was like, excellent. And I just
Nice.
Nice.
like kept petting the dog. um but yeah, it was a pretty decent day. I got home, I immediately took a nap. I
That's
just
hot.
needed some sleep, woke up, did my podcast notes, and then my family ordered sushi, so that's in front of me, which means, full disclosure, I will be muted while you guys are sharing your stories, and I will be mad because it smells so good. So I can't resist it.
Nah,
Um,
you good, you good.
but yeah, that's pretty much all my day was. Pretty chill. I have more stuff going on later, so I'm really glad I got my nap in. But
Hell yeah.
pretty chill day up till now.
Well, while
Same.
you were scrumping away at your sushi, did you have any words with Vadu for us?
So I do. It is
Ooh.
a foreign word. Uh, and
Interesting.
it's okay. So this is a word to like. I love this word more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you use
and
it?
I don't use it because it's in Danish. But it's a
Oh.
word that I learned about when I was learning Danish, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's basically like a it's a word that we don't have a word for in English. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So
Yeah.
it's very difficult for me to pronounce this because I've lost all of my Danish language, but I believe it's forescale. Like, I think that's how you say it. It's Forelskelse. Long word. But my I have an ex-boyfriend who's Danish, and he used to like mention this word every once in a while, um when we were falling in love, and I never knew what it meant. And so I started learning Danish, and I just like couldn't come across the meaning for it. And then eventually he told me, and it's like a word for when you feel yourself starting to fall in love with someone. And
Aw.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
cute.
And I'm covering Ari today, and her story is like so much about like love that it just like
Mm-hmm.
kept making me think of this word. So I decided to use this one finally. But it's an especially used term for like when you have a young love, like when you're kind of like in those beginning stages, you have like that
So like
infatuation,
the
yeah,
honeymoon
like the
phase kind of
honeymoon
thing.
phase. So I guess that would probably be like the closest that we have to it, is kind of like a honeymoon phase. Like some people kind of say that it's equivalent to like a fling, where like you don't know that the outcome is going to be good or bad, but like you have that strong attachment and that strong
Mm-hmm.
romantic feeling for someone. um and a lot of people say that it also is like specifically used sometimes to describe like a love that is felt by a young person for someone older than them. So it's like that,
Mm.
like kind of like romanticized, like very,
Forbidden love.
yeah. So there's a few like ways that it's been interpreted, but I just love it because we don't have a phrase for it in English, and I love when that happens for some reason. Like just
Mm-hmm.
like learning these like complex things that we describe have like a simple word in another language. So I wish I could use it, but I can't really pronounce it. So
Yeah, nah, when you said I can't really pronounce it, I was like, that must also mean why
let,
she doesn't use
yeah,
it. So
let
that
me
makes sense.
here I'll
Yeah.
let me drop it to you guys, and if you want to try to pronounce that, by all
Oh,
means.
Bro,
jeez.
I'm no Danish wit.
Oh
No, there's too many
gosh.
consonants in a row. I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, it's a lot
Oral
of
suckle.
ease.
Yeah, no.
Oral
Pass.
suckle. Oral sk.
Mm.
Forceful. For. I'm sure it sounds beautiful in Danish. I'm sure it's
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
I'm sure when like a
It's just
very
my
native
lovely.
American ass is
speaker,
making it sound ugly. I
yeah,
apologize.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I butchered it completely. That's like, hold on, let me look it up
Let
on
me Google
Google, and just
Translate this
real
bitch.
quick, I'll like play it for you guys, okay?
Of course, of course.
Pronunciation.
I hope Google Translate pronounces it better than us Americans.
Probably
You know?
not.
Well, one would hope.
Forelskelse.
Oh my god.
Did you butcher it?
I played it out loud. I can't replicate that.
Yeah.
Let me just
Well,
hear. There's that. Just click on the first one, and you guys can hear it. I butchered it for sure. I can't replicate that. That
For
is
else is
absolutely not.
yeah.
yeah,
But
I
you know
think so.
what? The intent was there. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. And I also second this statement that you said that you like when there's a word that isn't necessarily like 100% one-to-one translated
Yeah.
to English. I can't remember what it is right now, and I'm gonna try and do it during your guys' pieces, but there was this word, and I think it was in Latin or like a non-spoken language, but it was for like written like poetry in a way, and it described the feeling of loving someone but the connection was lost somewhere, and it was like the word itself just felt so heartbreaking to
Mm-hmm.
read, and I was like, this fits so perfectly, and I don't understand like why this isn't a word in English.
Right.
But like I also get it because in other languages I think it's so much more fascinating where their words mean a sentence. And I feel like there's not that many, at least to me, to my knowledge right now in this moment, because I can't really think of any, where we have words that mean an entire sentence in its own, unless it's like an idiom or something. But it's not just like
Yeah.
a word just used in
Like we
common
make them
tongue.
like slang wise, like
Yeah.
how many times do we use burb for be right back? But like there's
Yeah.
no like traditionally set word for like an entire sentence.
Yeah. And I think that's like unfair. Like I want some
Yeah.
of those. But it's always like a language that's not English. But I
Right.
think they're just so pretty that I'm just like, you keep those because we would ruin them.
Yeah, we
So
would ruin them. Absolutely we would.
so I love them and I agree. That's
Yeah.
a very good word.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Well then I think that brings us to our Vastaya. Did somebody have like an inkling to go first?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I covered my man's Rangar. He is probably one of my favorites to play in game. And also I had a feeling that his backstory or like what he was all about was kind of self-explanatory. So I also thought it would be better if one that sounds exactly as it should be should go first.
Oh, fair, fair, fair.
Yeah, so like the whole like summarized version of who Rangar is basically he is this hunter and he was trying to like prove himself to be like, no dude, I'm top dog, like I've got this. And his dad was essentially like, you're literally the weakest man on earth. And he was like, oh well, that sucks. And so he kind of like goes on this journey to like get all the trophies and stuff, which is in game. His
Oh,
passive is the
yeah.
trophy necklace where you get all the teeth of the 5
For
other
killing
enemies you're
everyone. Yeah,
against.
yeah,
So
Mm.
that's essentially what it is without going into the full details. But I have a little story from his backstory from League where it says that Rengar hailed from a tribe of Shuriman Vastaya known as the Kilash, whose society venerated, the honor and glory of the hunt. Rengar was born the run to the litter, so he's the smallest dude in the whole litter. And they don't really talk about his brothers and sisters, so I guess really they kind of just picked on Rengar the entire time. And the tribe's chieftain was named Ponjaf. Ponjaf believed Rengar's diminutive size would just make him worthless and not a very good hunter at all. So he just ignored his child, assuming that the rope would just starve to death and he wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. So this poor little kitty was just kicked to the side and he was like, damn, he ain't gonna be nothing. That's just how it's gonna be. So Rengar still like hung on. He actually survived on grubs and plants for weeks. So not only was he a carnivore, like because he's part cat man, he just survives on grubs and plants for weeks, and until one day he was almost killed by this legendary human hunter of the area where they lived named Markon. Upon seeing Rengar's state, he took pity on the creature and let it live. He kind of just looked at him and was like, you're not really worth it. So I'm going to keep moving. So he was looking at him and he was like, Rengar was looking at him and he was like, dang, he seems like one of those hunters I could learn a lot from. I really like the weapons he has, and they were actually pretty famous. His blades, they didn't have a name, which unfortunately kind of sucks. But they're just called Markon's blades, and if you guys have seen Rengar's, he's got 2 different kinds. He's got one that kind of like sits like brass knuckles, and then another that is like a really big scimitar. I believe the one that he was talking about is the scimitar because he called it a blade, not like the shank, I guess you could call it.
I have to look up a picture of him now because I know like nothing about Rengar.
So for months he just followed Markon and he was feeding off the corpses that the hunter left. So whenever he would go and like set up a new camp, he would kill something just to, sustain himself and then move on. Rengar would always keep a safe distance, but slowly eat away at the corpses that he left behind in order to survive, and he was slowly learning and picking up skills from Markon. He still hoped for that one day where he could rejoin his tribe and take care of how, like, to become a great chieftain and all that, and he was knowing that following Markon and learning these tips and tricks would help him achieve that someday. But after time, Markon kind of grew sick of the pathetic cat following him. He was like, dude, I'm literally sick and tired of you. So he ran ahead into the jungle. And when Rengar tried to keep up but lost where Markon went, Markon ended up behind him and held a knife to Rengar's throat and said, the only way that you'll ever be a hunter is to hunt, not to just like feed off of scraps, essentially. And so he tossed Rengar his blade, the big scimitar looking one, and kicked him into a ravine and was like, all right, kid, figure it out. I don't exactly know how old Rengar was at this point, but I'm assuming still just like a young kid. Maybe like not even 10.
I mean,
And
I guess it would also depend on how long the lifespan of a Vastaya is, though. Because
yeah.
for longer living things, they are probably quote unquote like young for a longer time, too.
There was never, I tried to look it up too because I'm actually curious like how long has Rengar been alive, because it comes into play later like why this would make sense. But I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find like a timeline of to like how long it took him to be taken under Markon's wing and when he like became like the famous hunter he was. but I got nothing. They don't even actually know how
Um,
old he is.
Yeah, and it says
But I
that.
also think that's because Ponjaf, his dad,
Mhm.
wouldn't keep records of him.
Yeah.
He hated him. So it made
Um.
sense.
Yeah, and I mean, like this. I know Vastaya live hundreds of years. I don't know how
Mhm.
many hundreds of years. I do know that
Yeah.
there are some that are said to live like 500 to 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So it's
Mm.
possible that maybe like their age gets lost. Like it's
Mhm.
certain, like some certain point, it's like I don't even know how old I am anymore.
Yeah, like it just doesn't become a thing that they focus on. They like
Yeah.
more focus on like achievements and
Or
stuff.
yeah, or even that. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just something that they just never focus on in general because they just live so long. They're like, what's the point of keeping track?
Yeah, that's fair. I could
Mm-hmm.
see that. It's kind of like vampires. Like they understand like what century they were born in, but after that they're like, ah, whatever. Like-
Yeah, man, somewhere around like maybe 6, 7, 800 years ago.
Yeah, you're like saying years like 6, 7, yeah, 700 years. You're like,
Yeah,
wait, what?
you're like, wait, that's like a huge range, and you're like, yeah, it all blends together.
So essentially, Markon ditched Rengar at this point. Like he kicked him down there and said, "Good luck, kid," and left. So for years, Rengar pushed himself to a breaking point where he scoured all of Shurima and was hunting down the most powerful and dangerous prey there was, practicing his skills, honing them, making sure that he was like the top dog of the area. And he never could be as big as the other Kilash, which are the other like Catman hybrid things. He was determined to become even more ferocious, to be just as dangerous, if not more, even though he was lacking in the size department since he was the runt of the litter.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, instead of coming back to his camp each time with fresh scars, he would come back with trophies. So instead of him losing all the time, this is when he started to um find the prey that he could take trophies from and started taking. It wasn't initially, it wasn't all like teeth and stuff, but it said that the first kill that he took a trophy from where he like won significantly without taking too much damage to himself was a sandhawk, and he actually polished its skull to
Oh.
keep as a whole trophy. And I was thinking that was the thing that's on his shoulder because one of his shoulder pads is a skull. But actually, he took out the teeth from the skull and braided it into his hair, like his
Oh.
mane.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, we love a stylish guy, so you know. So after years and years of practicing and honing his trade, he actually went back home to his original tribe. And he walked up to Ponjaf and was like, "Hey, I'm into putting in the work. I deserve to be a hunter. You better sure as hell give me that title." And Ponjaf looked up at him, looked him up and down, looked at all of his trophies, and laughed in his face. Was
Huh.
just like, "That's funny. Your little kitten, do you think you can just come up in here, demand that you get this title, and you have nothing to show for it?"
And then he killed him, right? Please.
No.
But what?
This is where
Rengar.
the elusive killer Kha'Zix comes in.
Mm,
So
my boy.
Ponjaf was sitting there and was like, "Oh yeah? You wanna get a challenge going here?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I do. I can prove that I'm a better hunter than anybody else here." He goes,
The
"How about
roach.
you go back to where you came, bring me back the head of the Avoid Abomination Kha'Zix, and you can come back. No
Wait.
one will bully you. No one will make fun of you. And hell, I'll even make you the best hunter of the tribe."
Wait, hold on.
Oh.
Can
Okay.
we acknowledge the fact that this man went out, collected all these trophies, came back unscathed? He said, "You think that's difficult? Go exterminate this roach." Like,
Yeah, pretty much. But also, he couldn't have done it.
oh
Not
no,
Rengar, the dad. So
yeah,
I was
no.
like, what are we even talking about?
That
So
it
Rengar
sounds
was
to
like,
me like
hell yeah,
manipulation.
I'm gonna do that. He left
Yeah.
immediately, right then and there. He grabbed his stuff and just head out. And so he used all the skills that he learned from Markon and was just messing around. And actually, instead of being able to hunt Kha'Zix, he set a trap. he was gonna be like, well, if I just look like a little baby hunter, maybe he'll just like hunt me, you know? Like he'll come after me
Oh,
and I don't have to
fair.
do that. Yeah, so it worked, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, this is why Rengar doesn't have an eye. So
Oh.
Kha'Zix leapt onto him and ripped out one of his eyes and ran away. So not only did he come back without an eye and scarred from
Oh my
the battle that he did, he trudged back home, walked up to Punjaf and said, I couldn't do it. I actually lost as
Yeah.
well because he's got like a bandage over his eye and stuff. Punjaf laughed at him again and chastised him and was like, dude, you really thought you were some hotshot hunter? And so while Punjab was making fun of him, Rengar was looking
Killed him.
around his hut, like in the little hut that he has for being a chieftain, and he noticed that his father's trophies were dusty and old. He hasn't had anything new in a
Bitch.
while. Like a long
You
time.
should kill your dad, Rengar. You
So
should kill your dad.
so Rengar made the realization that Ponjaf sent him to go get Kha'Zix because he's too much of a baby to go do it
Oh, hell
himself.
yeah. We love
So
this.
he holds up his paw and he goes, "Excuse me, um, you're the coward." And Ponjaf scoffs in his face. He's like, "You have got to be kidding me. Like, how dare you?" And Rengar was known and knew this about the Kilash tribe, that they were blessed with strong bodies and that if they put their mind to it, they can go ahead and succeed. Obviously, when Vastaya gets old, like obviously at the 400 down years
Yeah.
age, they start getting run down. But Ponjaf was not that old. Not at all. So he knew that like because he was the litter, my bad. He had to work so much harder. And so Ponjaf and all the other Kilash didn't understand that like Rengar had to put like 2 times more of the work essentially. And so he had to teach himself how to hunt, how to collect trophies, how to bandage himself up and like hone his weapons, sharpen them, all that jazz by himself because no one taught him. His
Right.
father wasn't going to, and Markhan didn't even. He just had to watch. So he realized that all those things were his own trophies, all of his own achievements, including his own eye that was still bleeding, mind you, when he got back. So even with all these disadvantages that Rengar was given, he had never given up, but
Hell
his
yeah.
dad did. So Rengar leapt at his father and gutted him from neck to
Let's
belly and
go.
ripped out his guts and left it out in the middle of the tribe like circle for everyone to see as he roared and echoed through the jungle or wherever they lived. And he was anointed the most fiercest hunter of the tribe, and they crowned him with flame roses, which was a flower of the area around them, which marked them as their new chieftain. Only chieftains got to wear those flowers.
Whoa.
But he wasn't happy still. He loved that he got to be the new chieftain and that he was well respected at this point because he showed his worth and everything. But he still didn't finish his last hunt. If you remember, that was Kha'Zix. So he made sure that his tribe would be taken care of. He would stop by every once in a while, but with the adrenaline pumping through his veins, he went after Kha'Zix again, and he will take that trophy once and for all, if not for Punjab, but for himself. So ever since that day, he has been hunting Kha'Zix relentlessly, just over and over, and they would like go back and forth from being the hunted versus the hunter. And even there's another story, I didn't write it down in my notes, but in summary, it went through like POV shifts between Kha'Zix and Rengar versus how they thought throughout the entire hunting process. It was only a snippet, of course, but it was essentially going through like how Rengar would find a prey of his that he left behind and how he would track the scent and the footprints. And apparently Kha'Zix leaves behind like this slime or something. I don't exactly know how to explain it, but like whenever he evolves and like molts essentially, like that gets left behind, and like he could at some point, because his sense of smell was so heightened, he could literally track only Kha'Zix's scent and like ignore all else. So he like essentially honed in on Kha'Zix so hard that like even if something was hunting him, he would quickly kill it and move on. And so like I think it's a lover's quarrel. I think it's kind of funny that like Kha'Zix
Mhm.
and Rengar have this beef for obviously hundreds of years because this man is insane, but also that Kha'Zix can't kill him either. So I think that's
Mhm.
super neat.
Wasn't
Um,
the first battle they had? It was like 48 hours long.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
it
It
reminds
lasted
me of
multiple days. But it
if
wasn't even just like them hunting each other like over and over. The battle itself lasted that long, like with little breaks in between, but like they were just
right.
fighting each other nonstop, back to back to back. It
Yeah,
was insane.
it's
One other thing that I
incredible.
thought was really funny is this little bonus info. Um, Rengar one time, I don't exactly know how he got put in this position, but Lucian pulled up. And he came up and saved Rengar from whatever predicament he was in with a rookie from the Sentinels of Light. And they apparently came to the jungles of Ixtal to search for a fetter. I don't actually know what a fetter is, but I'm assuming it's like a mission of sorts. And they stumbled across Rengar in a predicament, saved him, and was like, "Do you want to join us?" And he was like, "Ew, no." And so they're like, "Okay, no need to say it like that." But they left and were doing their own thing. And Rengar, I guess, like, not hunted them, but like was watching them from the jungle and stuff. And so he saw that they were having trouble hunting down Viego, and he was like, "Jesus Christ, I didn't know you guys needed that much help." So he joins in the Sentinels of Light and actually helps them hunt Viego. And it wasn't said that he was the one who like stopped Viego and like won it all, but essentially he saw that Viego was a pretty big top dog in the area, at least away from like what he was doing, which is just hunting down Kha'Zix. So he was like, "Okay, this seems like a better trophy. Like this seems so much more fun than what I'm doing. I'm gonna take a break from this." And he goes and hunts Viego, and then once he finishes that little mission with Lucian and all that, he just goes back to hunting Kha'Zix again. And he seems pretty content doing that. And I don't think there's anything that could really stop him from doing that again. This is the only instance that I've seen where he takes a break
Hmm.
to go do something else, and then he's like, "All right, back to the good old 9 to 5."
Oh my god, that's I love the
Yeah.
idea of him seeing things that he wants to hunt, but he's so like locked on the Kazakhs that he just like in my head I just picture him like marching down a path and things are like off to the side and he's like he gives me such like a predator vibe where it's like
Yeah.
this I am so overpowered I could literally just like basically throw something at you and it will snap your neck and then like that's good enough for me because I'm trying to move on. But that's
Yeah.
what him and Kha'Zix remind me of because the Predator universe, his whole like Predator's whole thing is I need to find the most powerful thing on this planet and I need to kill
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And that's
And
essentially what he is.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he has a skin that looks like the Predator.
I wouldn't
I'm
be
pretty
shocked.
sure it's
There's a lot of
Predator
similarities.
Rengar.
Straight down to like the like Wolverine-esque thing on his hand, like
Oh yeah.
that feels like something I've seen used in a Predator movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he literally actually has one that looks like
Yeah.
Predator.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love
Figures.
that though. I think that's such
Me
a
too.
cool thing that they implemented. I love when League decides to do that where they take little um pieces from like a movie or a different game and they put it
Mhm.
in. Except they didn't call him Predator Rengar. This is Champ Headhunter, which is I mean essentially the
Yeah.
same thing. I'm
It
sending
it
you two
literally
DMs,
is,
but
yeah.
yeah.
Ooh.
Literally same dreads and everything.
That is actually just the Predator. That is legitimately just the Predator for sure.
But I love it. I love that he has so many different like skins, and I also one other thing that I didn't know about Rengar is I didn't know he was Shuriman. I know the Kilash
Yeah.
are Shuriman Vastaya, but it didn't put two and two together. And what's so stupid is I literally have the skin, the sands one,
Yeah.
the Sand King or whatever, and I was like, dude, I literally have that, and I didn't
You
even
just
put two
never
and two
put it
together.
together.
No,
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a skin bundle that they were like, you know what, Rengar deserves this one too. Just because they could put like the cloak over his head, never put two and two. But yeah, so that is all I have on Mr. Rengar. And as I said, it was pretty straightforward. I mean, the man is a one road kind of guy. He's only got eyes for Kazakhs, and that's about it. He only steps aside if he needs like a little baby break, and then he goes back to the hunt. The man is all about the hunt and collecting those teeth for his necklace.
Oh yeah.
What a king! What a king!
True,
Literally.
what a king. The man, the myth, the legend.
What an actual king.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Chucky, do you wanna go next,
Sure.
or should I go next? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go next. Okay, so I kind of maybe like messed up like a little bit. But I'll explain that in just a second.
Oh boy.
So today I'm covering Lilia, the Bashful Bloom. So in one of the hidden forests in Ionia, it contained a special magic tree that gathered humanity's dreams in its blooms. And that tree is actually from when the God Willow was felled, which like goes back to Ivern's story, which is I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if we've
Mm.
covered Ivern yet, but I did some research on Ivern. I mean, I could touch on it right now, but we could save it also for another Ivern
We did.
episode.
We went over it briefly. I think when we
hmm
did, because that's the one. His axe struck the God Willow, and he was
He was
like
raged. He
disarrayed.
was
Yeah.
yeah, he was like
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
enraged, so he chopped down the tree, and then
Because
from chopping down the tree, sorry,
oh, I was gonna say, because wasn't his originally he was from the Freljord, right? And his name was Ivern the
yeah,
Cruel.
yeah, and he was just a
Yeah.
barbarian, like he was
Yeah.
like yeah. Yeah. But when he chopped down the tree, actually the dreaming tree grew from one of the seeds that was dropped to the
Oh.
Garden of Forgetting. So like the garden that Ivern looked after, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
after all of his story happened, all the lore, you know.
Right.
Um, but Lilia was born from one of the tree's dreams that was captured in a bud and it fell to the ground. And before it could bloom, it like created Lilia. And it was the first time anything like this had happened. So the tree, I guess how it works is like when people dream, it like the buds collect the dreams, if that makes sense.
Oh. Okay.
Hmm.
So it kind of so the dream sprouted an awkward fawn creature with the flower bud still on her head. And Lilia's only company was her mother tree and the dreams that drifted to the garden each night. So Lilia helped tend to the buds and learned about humanity through the dreams. And she was enchanted by like the people and places, and she spent every waking hour like experiencing a swirl of emotions and desires that mortals could only see when they close their eyes. So she just learned all about humanity through these dream buds.
Wait. So was
Uh,
she like herself like a result from like she's like a Vastaya that was dreamed into existence?
so she is not a Vastaya, which is funny. She is
Oh.
not a Vastaya, so I
Wait,
kind of
dead ass. I
misunderstood the
definitely
assignment.
thought that she was
No,
Vastaya.
she's
I'm pretty sure
she's
I
actually
recommended her to you.
I know. So she's not. I know because when you were describing like the Vastayas, I was like, wait, I don't think Lily is a Vastaya. So
Wait.
because I
Wait, so
after
what is
reading her
she?
story, she's purely dream born. So she's not
Wow.
a Vastaya. She's just dream born.
Okay, but she has Vastaya form. You know what I
She
mean? Like
looks like
she
she
looks like
resembles a
one.
Vastaya.
Yeah.
Yes, so she purely
All right, it
resembles a Vastaya.
counts.
Like yeah, but
Yeah,
she's
she
not.
counts.
She's
She
actually
She
counts.
just like
counts.
a forest dream. She's like nature and human dreams had a baby. It's Lilia.
Wow, I can't believe I
Um,
goofed like that. Sorry.
But I believe you too. I was like, damn, she's right. She's part deer. It's
Yeah,
okay.
for real.
yeah,
Damn.
seems legit. Like it kind of checks out, but
Yeah,
no.
that's funny.
Um, Yeah, so anyway, so she kind of developed like an emotional attachment to each dreamer that like would collect the dreams from. And she wanted nothing more than to like meet them, and she wanted her own desires to eventually gather in the buds of the tree. So she really wanted to meet all these people, and she considered all of them her friends, all the dreamers.
Hmm.
So let's see here. So something was happening in the outside world, though, like outside of the forest, and a war blazed through the land. And in time, fewer dreams began to reach the garden. The tree
Oh.
itself started to grow sick and become infected with burls that like oozed darkness.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and Lilia did her best to care for the mother tree, but and the dreams that remained in the buds, but it was not long before the garden became so weak that violence of the world spilled in. And one night warriors entered the forest, chasing a lone figure all the way to the dreaming tree. And with a single slash of their blade, the branch contained oh, wait. Sorry, I think I missed a part. But Lilia like wanted it so bad to become like one of the dreamers that her wish became a dream, and it grew onto one of the branches. So that I missed that part. But but anyway, so when this all happened, the invaders, they chopped off the one that contained her dream, like the bud, the branch with that with the dream, right? So Lilia panicked and she forced them all to sleep. And she was like shocked at the difference between the mortals that she thought she knew and the one that she had found, because all she had ever seen were dreamers. Um, and she thought to herself that they were so afraid and they looked like the burls on the mother tree. Like they they reflected kind of what was happening on her tree. So, as the
Damn.
warriors slept, a dream emerged from the lone figure that the others had been chasing, and it floated towards the broken branch on the ground, and it moved into the bud. And Lilia picked it up, and she could feel the dream, and she whispered to it and soothed it, and it glowed even brighter. And the bud upon her head unfurled, and the magic swirled around her like sparkling pollen. And in that moment, Lilia bloomed herself. With a sneeze, though, she sent magic all throughout the forest. So like the pollen from her top head went all throughout the forest into like a magic pollen dust. And when the humans woke up, they were not able to remember what brought them to the forest or what they had done. And nobody noticed Lilia, but she was able to relax as they left. And she knew that to save the tree and gather the dreams, she would have to bring the tree to the humans. And so she picked up the branch that lay the bud of her dreams, and she left the garden and entered the world of the humans. She would hide out of sight and help people's dreams be born, and she would draw them forward, showing them glimpses of who they could be and what might be trapped beneath their surface. And her
Oh
kind of
wow.
hope is just to bring sparkle and hope back to humanity.
Oh.
She's so wholesome. But also, can we talk
Literally.
about? I actually didn't know Lilia had a flower on her head.
Me either. I just looked up a
Yes.
picture of her and I was like, oh, it's there.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was like, is Chalky talking out of her ass right now? Like, I
Yeah.
understand she
I
did
was like,
research,
I'm pretty
but
sure
I
that's
literally
not
have
there.
never seen a flower on her noggin, not
Yeah.
once. And I turned and I looked and I said, well,
Well,
I guess
It's
I
so
did see
fuck
something.
me.
pretty.
I guess I'm the asshole.
Yeah.
In the like hyacinth scrolls or whatever, like that skin line. Like in that skin line, the flower on her head looks so cute.
But in
Wow.
her main picture, I don't know what I was looking at, but that has never been a flower in my eyes. Especially in her Nightbringer skin, she don't even have flower. So there's like some instances where I'm like, okay, I see it. Yeah, okay. But
Right.
it's it's also not even in her Spirit Blossom one.
In this one though, like I'll put it in the Cove or in the like the office chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I can. Wait, no, I can't. I'm gonna send it in
Put it on
off topic.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it
I
off
was
topic.
just
All
like,
right.
huh. I have
But
never
this picture,
oh,
I think, yeah, I also didn't think that she had a blossom on her head, but
yeah.
I
we might.
literally, my Google search,
But
you guys, is League of Legends Lilia head flower.
Head flower. Yeah, it literally, I
head
was so
flower.
flabbergasted. You said she literally grew from the tree and had a flower on her head that helps
Yeah.
her with the dreams and stuff. And I was like, that makes sense why, with her ability,
God,
she
she's
kicks the
such
seed
a
and there's a
babe,
flower in
dude.
there.
She's actually such a
Yeah.
babe.
Wait,
that's
she's so
that's her
I
cute.
branch
know, I
though
love her.
that she carries though. That's her branch. Like that's her dream branch. Like
Wow.
her hope, her dream, and like so she goes around and collects dreams so she can kind of hopefully bring the mother tree back
I
from its kind of
She's so
sad
I'm
state.
realizing
cute.
right now how little I know about some of these champs.
Dude, we didn't even know she had a flower.
I
So
literally, yeah.
I'm
I mean, I didn't even know
literally
Rengar was the
I'm
predator.
learning.
I had no idea.
Oh
I'm
my
loving
gosh.
this. Keep going, Chucky. Tear it up.
Okay. So I have some fun facts. So
Yay.
Ivern is technically Lilia's grandfather
What?
Only one
because
grand?
Because they came from the
grandfather,
same
yes.
tree,
Huh.
technically?
Yes.
Okay.
So he's the so yes, so the he is now the god tree, right?
Right.
So the
I'd
mother
still
tree
call him a
is the
bush,
other
but
one, and that's Lilia's mother. So he's her her grandfather.
Okay. All right. I
And
see where that logic works. Yeah.
yes. And it is also said that the lone figure in the story was Yasuo.
Okay.
oh my god.
Yasuo be showing up in like everybody's lore, dude. I swear to
Yasuo
God.
would be like around, like
Literally,
he'd
like
be
he
kind of
be
a
getting around, you know. It's like
he'd be getting around. So her alt is like the lit oh my god, the lilting lullaby, which is the dream dust that she would have kind of used to put the invaders to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So the kind of relating back to the story, and I like this line where she says, "Where are you, little lost dreams? I'll bring you home to the dreaming tree," because that's like her kind
Her
of
yeah.
lore.
thing.
Kind of, it's cute. Yeah, I think it's cute, and that's all I have for Lilia.
Wow.
Even though you're supposed to like kind of on the shorter end, she's so cute.
Literally. Also her like
She's
I it's another
adorable.
one of those things where like her story is like self-explanatory, but at the same time like I feel like there's like they're going to be able to expand upon so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when they have like more characters that could like I guess also come from the mother tree, which would be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. There's so much room to explore because especially when you get into the whole thing about like dreams and um their further like interpretation. I mean like there's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
if dream magic is a thing, that means there's a lot of root for other magics that stem from it. And if
Yeah.
she's like the keeper of the dreams, like she would have like a lot of involvement. So who really
Mm-hmm.
I mean like who
Mhm.
really knows where that could end up?
That's
Wow,
pretty
I
cool. I
love
like that.
her. She's adorable.
I
Yeah,
know.
what a babe.
I feel like I keep discovering all these like cute little champions and stuff that I like never knew any pieces of lore about that it's so cool. I honestly think that Riot is pretty amazing with their league lore.
Storytelling.
Dude,
Like
I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling
it's
you,
pretty crazy.
so Cap knows this. When I was playing Valorant, I was like balls deep into the lore. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody gave a shit about the lore at that time. So I would constantly be playing the game with people and I would be like spilling off all this nerdy lore shit because there's such an incredible story there. Like nobody knows what's the underwater map called? Pearl?
Pearl, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh
Nobody knows the story behind that
Underwater.
map. And it's super. Yeah. So Pearl's actually underwater, and there's like a huge story behind it because Valorant is a mirrored world lore. Like, it's based in mirrored worlds. But the world that Pearl is in is the one opposite of quote unquote our world. The reason it's
Mm-hmm.
underwater is because global warming has already fucked their world. So
Mm.
they had to find a way to live underwater. So the reason that they're coming into our world is because they want our, I'm pretty sure it's called Radianite.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want our Radianite so that they can keep basically fueling their worlds because they're screwed. And we, being the greedy world that we are, we're like, no, you can't have it. There's like a
Yeah.
whole underlying crazy storyline. We should cover it one day. It's actually, I love the lore from Valorant.
There's
And
actually a new character that just came out for more lore for you, by the way.
oh my god, okay, yeah. See, Cap knows about this because even though I don't play the game anymore and I have a burning passion for hating it, we watch all the cinematics together because I still
Mm-hmm.
love the lore.
This one's really cool. Like, I think her name is Vise, I think is how you pronounce it. She's really cool.
Yeah.
And she's like a bad guy in this one.
Oh, I love that. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, none of the bad guys are actually bad guys, right? Because Fade was supposed to be this like uber. She was like sending all these messages. That's the other thing. People don't realize that there's like off-camera lore that we get through like
Yeah.
emails and briefing missions and like stuff like that. But there was like a whole thing about how she was like her whole thing was that she just observed and like crept into the nightmares of all of these agents and then basically just sent them text saying, "LOL, I know it scares you." Like, she's so funny.
What a lady.
Literally.
But yeah,
Oh,
lovely. Now we get to
Yeah.
hear about Vedas.
Okay, so I'm
wow.
covering Ari, and just trigger warning, this is a very, like, depressing lore. But, like,
Aw.
it's almost also kind of
Yeah.
beautiful. So,
Aw.
yeah,
Okay.
you'll see. So,
Sad
um,
already.
so our story starts in Ionia. Ari's whole shtick, like her entire thing, is that she just has no idea where she came from. Her origins are just lost, right? So her earliest memories were being in Ionia and coming across ice foxes. And she kind of like ran along with them. They adopted her as one of their own. They taught her how to hunt and how to stalk her prey and everything. And that's who she considers her like first family because she has no idea who her parents are. She doesn't really know where she comes from. The only thing of her origins that she has are these like twin gemstones that she carries around. And they're more like they're kind of like polished sandstone, like in the form of like tokens. And they're two tokens that are like they are split apart, but when you put them together, they perfectly fit to form this kind of like beautiful orb looking token. So this is all she's gotten. She's carrying them around. She comes across these ice foxes very young. They kind of bring her up. And then one day when she's in the forests of Ionia, there are some soldiers that are, you know, coming around and she takes note of one of them because like as she's observing, she just gets reminded of her family because Ionia, if we remember talking about it before, the spirits if you were a hunter, the spirits would they frowned upon you wasting any sort of piece of the animal. So she would observe as these hunters or these soldiers would come into the forest, kill an animal, and then use every piece of it for something because she was like, oh, that's kind of like what we do. And it's very much because of that spiritual balance, but she was so young and it wasn't something that she fully understood yet. So she would kind of observe these guys. And then one day he came through and he was wounded by an arrow and she was able to see the life essence leaving the wound. So she ended up inhaling it, which ultimately led to her getting flashes of like his memories, getting the emotions. She saw like a love lost. She experienced heartbreak. She experienced like pure joy and fear. And she was able to, through this connection with him, charm him in order to let him see peaceful surroundings as he passed away. So she was kind of able to like usher him into death with like this sense of peacefulness, and in exchange she was taking his life essence and absorbing his memories and emotions. And she loved that. So this became a thing that she was like, I am hungry for this now. I want this life essence stuff, you know, blah blah blah. So she traveled across Ionia, and essentially she would just, when she was hungry, she would feed on the life essence of somebody, and she would kind of like get this sense of belonging and happiness through absorbing the life essence of others because she was able to feel their emotions and live through them and their memories. So she was able to kind of like get a sense of history as well through the memories of these people. But it did eventually come to an end because you gotta think, like, if you're constantly walking around like killing people and living through their memories and emotions or whatever, there's gotta be a point that hits you where like, damn, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do this anymore. So she did eventually kind of like get remorseful. She started seeing herself as a complete and total monster. So she essentially was like, I'm gonna go on a diet. I'm gonna cut back. I'm not gonna kill people anymore. I'm just gonna consume like a memory or two. I'm gonna take enough life essence to essentially get by without killing someone. And she was successful in that. She was able to walk around and, meet these people, like, yoink a memory or two, and then essentially like move on with her life. But she was left with this like endless hunger because she was never fully satisfying herself. So she was essentially like I know we compared to vampires earlier, but that's basically what she was doing, right? She was like a vampire who wasn't actually feeding. She was just like getting, a drink or two in every once in a while and then just trying to like live off of that. And she came across like a small village and kind of like gave in to that hunger, and she essentially like killed them all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did she like mean to, or was it on accident?
It was like this insatiable hunger was bubbling up inside her, and then once she finally like gave into it, she just couldn't control herself.
Okay.
And so she,
Gotcha.
instead of like feeding on one person, she just fed on the village. And
Oh gosh.
in her deep like shame and regret from this, she essentially went back to the forests of Ionia and isolated herself so that she could learn to kind of like control herself and maybe try this again where she could like, you know, maybe maybe a couple memories here and there, maybe we steal, 3 or 4, and maybe the person doesn't die, and we can, we don't slaughter a whole village. So when she emerges, she essentially sets out on this like journey for self-discovery, and she's able to keep her like, hunger in control. She doesn't end up slaughtering very many people. She does steal memories here and there, and she does drink some life essence. It's how she survives. So she essentially learns to control herself, goes on this journey for self-discovery, and she's got these 2 twin stones that are that's what she essentially has as the only clue. So she's trying to essentially find somebody to tell her what these are so that she can continue on with her research of where she comes from. So she gets to this village, and there's this kind of like market area that she stumbles through. And there are people trying to coax her into buying things. They're like, I've got, I'll trade you for, potions and polished stones, and I've got, rare items in the back and artifacts and stuff. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm just like not interested. And as she's walking along, she comes across a fortune teller, and the fortune teller is trying to get people to come into her tent so that she can, most likely scam them out of money. But then as she's observing this fortune teller, the teller is like telling people, like people are walking by and looking at her, and she's like, the answer is no. And like just doing these strange things. And she looks at Ari and she goes, you look like you have so many stories to tell. And she's trying to say like, let me talk to you, like come into my tent, let me read your fortune, blah blah blah. Ari's like, yeah, I think I'm good. I don't really need that. And as she's walking away, the fortune teller says, you won't find any other Yumelo tokens here, like the ones you have. And Ari's like, her ears perk up and she's like, sorry? And fortune teller's like, these are super rare tokens. I don't have all the information on them, but I'll share with you what I do have. Come with me. So they go into the fortune teller's tent, and the fortune teller's like, do you want some tea? I just like, this is going to be freshly brewed. Like, just let me know. She's like, yeah, sure. So fortune teller makes herself and Ari a cup of tea, like sets it down. She was like, she, put her hand out to get the stones, and Ari was like very protective of them. So she was like, these must be incredibly important to you. I have no interest in them. They're Yumelo stones. They're these very rare stones by this very specific craftsman. There's not very many of them in the world. And she's like, they make no use to a peddler like me, so don't have any fear in handing them over. So she does. And the fortune teller is like inspecting them. and essentially telling Ari of their origin and saying, they're meant to be part of a larger structure. So just as though you have pieces of your life that are missing, there are pieces of this puzzle missing as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so Ari's like, okay, interesting. And then all of a sudden she's feeling, like glued to her seat, very like chill, very relaxed. And she realizes the tea that she's been drinking is a poison. And
Oh.
the fortune teller is talking about how, she needs to be able to keep her craft going, and there's, very many Vastaya out here, but she's never seen one with foxtails, and she could really use a foxtail. So she grabs a knife and she aims to cut off one of Ari's tails. And she was like, pay no mind to it. The tea is going to both numb the pain as well as keep you still, blah, blah. You'll wake up good as new, just with one less tail. And so Ari tries to essentially like reach out to the magic around her, because as she came into the village, she realizes this village is kind of like swelling with magic. So she tries to like reach out to the magic. She can't move a muscle. She's kind of screwed. So she relies on this new form of self-control that she's learned, and she charms the fortune teller. And she's like, "Why don't you come closer? I want to see the face of the person who tricked me." And the fortune teller, in like a very like empty blank voice, is like, "Yeah, of course," and like leans in. So Ari inhales life essence directly out of the fortune teller, and that life essence allows her muscles to like regain all of this, or like expel the poison and kind of like regain control and everything. So while that's happening, she's getting memories from the fortune teller of her being very young, being, having a very, very hard life where she has to fend for herself, like how she got into peddling and how she became this kind of like sad person that she was. So the anger that she had felt before kind of subsided, and she was just kind of filled with this pity and sympathy for this fortune teller. She absorbed all memories of herself within the fortune teller. So the fortune teller had no idea who she was standing in front of her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ari simply like grazed her cheek with her hand and just left. And basically decided like, I'm not going to do anything more. You're not going to remember me. And I just stole a couple of memories that honestly you're probably better off without. And so she leaves. And having this clue that she got, she felt as though she left that and it was a fair trade for her, because she got a lot of information. She figured out that she can control herself when absorbing life essence, especially because that was like her first experience absorbing it since she had been isolating herself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so she essentially decides to move on and passes through a sacred grove, which is the Garden of Forgetting. Um, and she had a mission there. She wanted to forget something very specific. And as she walked through this grove, she was completely overwhelmed, because every second that she walked forward, a new flower would bloom in every direction. So this garden was very lively. And even though it was a very like serene place, she had this uneasy feeling of being watched. And then she came across this old woman with like long gray hair, um and essentially like wanting to be respectful because she kind of knew who it was due to legends. She was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you scared me." And then essentially like used a term of endearment. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's Agalia, maybe the word, but it's like the
Mm-hmm.
Ionian word for like grandmother, like a respectful formal way of calling somebody older.
Aw.
And so she was like, "Oh, you startled me." And she's like, um like basically she was like, "I kind of know why you're here and you kind of know why you're here." But she essentially like, she's looking around at all of these like beautiful flowers that are blooming around her, and this grandmother in front of her, and the grandmother's kind of like giving her this look, and she's like, "Little one, like, you look startled." um, you know, what is it exactly that brought you here? And the gardener, who in legends was also known as kind of like um the eater of secrets,
Mm.
she was essentially like, I know what you're here for. I know that you are essentially craving like absolution, like you want a purpose, and you kind of want, you know, to figure out who you are and where you come from, and all of this stuff. And she essentially like leads her over to a bench where the two of them sat down, and the old woman looks at her and she basically says, let me guess, you were in love. And Ari basically like collapsed within herself, like in a whole bunch of pain. And the old woman, the gardener, she was like, so tell me about him. Who was he? And she was like, he was a painter. He painted beautiful flowers. And the gardener was like, that sounds very romantic. And Ari's quickly like, I killed him. And I need you to give me the gift of oblivion. Please make me forget him. And so the gardener kind of says, like, once you do that, there's no going back. And she's like, I really can't stand the thought of being alive knowing that I killed him. I want to forget this. I don't want it anymore. I'm begging you. So the gardener then picks some fruit off of a tree and offers it to Ari, and she's kind of like, I don't know. And the gardener's like, I promise you, like, this one doesn't want anything from you. It's just fruit. You can eat it. And she's like, everything that I put in my mouth turns to ash. How am I supposed to eat when I'm nothing but a monster? And the gardener goes, well, even a monster needs to eat, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
she eats this fruit, and it's like this, amazing taste. And the gardener basically goes, okay, so you took a life and it wasn't yours to take. Um, yeah, how do we deal with that? And Ari's like, I'm begging you just to let me forget it, because every second that I am alive is constant torture, because I know that I killed him and I can't live with myself knowing that. And so the gardener says, there are a lot more consequences to losing yourself. Um you lost someone that you love, but in losing yourself, that is the worst of these options. So she essentially agrees to let Ari forget this, because she's like, if it's going to be what keeps you from losing yourself, then let me show you this flower. So she brings over to this flower, and she basically says, like, they're never going to deny something that you're giving willingly. They're never going to deny free memories, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to take a big inhale of this flower. You're going to think of the things that you want to forget. And then once you feel no more suffering from these memories, that's when you exhale, and then you inhale again, not before that. So she essentially takes this flower and she brings it up to her face. And as she takes her big breath in, inhaling the flower's perfume, she remembers everything about her lover, a raven haired man who painted flowers. He painted flowers along her spine as he was kissing her shoulder. He would console her in the times where she was dealing with who she was. She had a memory of him witnessing her feeding off life essence, crying and telling him that he deserves better than her, and that she is a monster. And he looks at her and, in spite of her nature, says, I don't care what you do, my heart is yours. And it strikes to another memory of her and him by the water, and her losing control, taking all of his life essence as his body sinks to the water. And while all of these are passing through, she's realizing how cold she's become, because she already doesn't feel anything as these memories come through. She doesn't feel suffering, but she doesn't feel happiness either. And then it hits her, and she moves away from the flower, taking another breath, she didn't want to lose these memories. She didn't want to lose them because losing them would mean losing him all over again. So she fought the effects of this flower, and it started to like cause hallucinations for her, where she envisioned her in the middle of an Ionian forest with her tails being ripped off one by one, growing back only to be ripped off again. She witnessed herself floating in the water, but instead of the water being of what it was actually like made of blood. She envisioned herself in like a cave, and her likeness was drawn all over the cave in these like inky etchings in which her face was like blank or empty or, you know, just lifeless. And she kind of like went through this trying to regain her breath because she felt like something was choking her out. And when she finally kind of came to, the gardener was there asking, "Can you still see him?" And she was like, "It's not a clear picture, but yeah, I remember him." And the gardener says, "Well, you've done something that most don't have the strength to do. You've refused peacefulness." And Ari basically says, "I don't want to lose everything that I have of him. I can't go through that again." And so the gardener's kind of like, "All right, then you need to leave because you can't let this place take a hold of you. You've already given them the memories. Like, you're free to take what's left of that, whatever you still can remember, but you need to leave right now." So she kind of ushers her out, and Ari kind of leaves with this like solace in who she is. She's like, "I have the strength to do something like that. I'm kind of a little more certain of who I am, and I can do this. I can move on, and I can figure out what's going on in my life." So that's exactly what she does. She decides to essentially continue on and figure out her origins. And then this lore is all of her original lore, so that's pretty much where it ends. uh when the Ruination came out, like the Ruined King and Viego and the Black Mist and all of that stuff, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of released a little more lore because somewhere along her travels, she decides to essentially like sail off to Bilgewater to see if she can find anything. Fun fact: this is also where she meets and has a somewhat of a relationship with Yasuo. Uh,
Well, there he is
but
again.
yeah, there he is again, always popping up in people's lore. But yeah, the two were essentially both like lost wanderers, so they found like a very deep companionship in each other for a while. But that's like completely off topic, just a fun fact.
Mm.
But along these travels, she kind of learns that she's got this connection to the Vasani tribe, which is a tribe that was lost in the Ruination. So the Vasani, according to journals, and specifically Yamello, who these tokens were said to be from, we're kind of doing this research on how to essentially like link memories and life essence into like stones or gems, which immediately made me think of poor Skarner. And
Oh.
because she was specifically like searching for information on Yamello, she did find a journal and learned of essentially like some of his craftsmanship through the eyes of another craftsman trying to imitate his work. So these journals were like essentially depicting this copycat craftsman and not Yamello himself, who was trying to craft stones that held fox spirits in them. It's not clear whether or not those stones are the same ones that Ari currently holds, but he was trying to craft 3 of them, and her foxfire is 3 orbs. So it is kind of like implied there that maybe there's a connection between this craftsman and the stones that she's currently holding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's really all that we get, is just like kind of loose information on what her tribe was kind of up to before the Ruination hit. Um, they have journals where they were kind of like locked in this library that they built, and the librarian, fun fact, was Thresh. Um,
Oh.
Thresh wanted information from the Vasani because obviously, if anybody knows Thresh's whole deal, he traps souls in lanterns. So he was very
Mhm.
interested in this whole, like, life essence, memory, soul trapping research that the Vasani were doing. And he actually had a journal entry in this kind of like lore dump as well, where he mentioned the Spirit Blossom Festival and how he finds it very interesting, and that he needs to make a note to like attend to try to discover more of the inner workings of like the spirit realm. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much where they left it. She still doesn't quite know her origins. It is still kind of up in the air. I do have some fun facts.
Ooh.
So the very first fun fact I have is that her name was actually the result of a poll that was held on the Korean website for Riot Games. There were 6 options. So Ari in Korean means graceful or elegant, which is obviously the one that was picked. But some other potential names were Tanbi, which is savior or saving rain. Nabi, which I love, it means butterfly. Um, I don't know if it would be Luri or Rudi, but it means dazzle. Um, there's is it Chorong? Chorong, which means glittering, or Dasom, which means loving. So there were
I
all
like
of these.
Dasom.
I like Dasom too. That's a really pretty
That one sounds
name.
like very like I don't want to say like pretty as in like younger pretty, but it sounds like elegant like older pretty.
It also would make a lot of sense. Like Dasom means living, so I mean, like imagine having like a nine-tailed fox whose ultimate curse is that she wants to be able to live as a normal human being, and she's constantly caught up in this regret of like, I can never get close to anyone because what if I lose control and I hurt them, because it's happened to me
Mhm.
once already. And it would just make so much sense. However, I do agree Ari is a very fitting name for her as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, the other fun fact that kind of goes along with that is that she is actually not a kitsune. Like, she's not based off a kitsune. She's based off of like it's the same thing, but it's different lore behind it. She's based off of Kumiho, which comes from like Middle Chinese. Um, it's still a nine-tailed fox. The lore is just like kind of a little different because I think kitsunes specifically are kind of like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to misspeak on lore, but Kumihos I know specifically are they're foxes by nature and they shapeshift into men versus I think kitsunes alternate between the two like freely.
Mhm.
Um but I know that Kumihos are meant to be they eat men's livers in the
Oh,
lore
yum.
versus I'm pretty sure kitsunes don't eat live. I don't know. I could be wrong about this, but everything I've ever known about a kitsune is like literally like kind of like steal the soul kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this is very specifically like they do not necessarily steal the souls. They more like devour the liver or the heart, depending on the legend.
Hmm.
And they also have this whole thing about like being a kumiho is kind of I think a punishment. So it's like a kind of like a thing of if you live a certain way in your mortal life, like you might come back as a kumiho and you might need to essentially like acquire a certain amount of like human souls like gained by trust or love in order to essentially like move on to your actual afterlife or in order to be reincarnated into your next life.
Mhm.
But there's a whole bunch, and like it's a lot more acceptable for kumihos to fall in love with humans, and yeah, it's like a chance to become human again. If I think it's if you don't eat any humans or human parts within like 1,000 days, you just become a human. So it's kind of
Oh.
it's kind of up to you. You know, you can,
Yeah.
if you want to be human, you can. Just don't eat anything for 1,000 days.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't know too much about kitsunes. I was never really a nine-tailed fox girly, you know. Um, but yeah, so that's another fun fact. And then I think my last one is about her passive. Yeah. So essence theft, which is her passive, which is where she essentially collects stacks to heal herself. It used to be uh it used to be called the same thing as Nasus's effect, which was Soul Eater.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they both used to have Soul Eater as one of their abilities.
Oh, I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So like
Well,
same mechanic, different reasoning, I guess.
Yeah,
Um
essentially.
but yeah, she's over a few hundred years old, and the last like little fun facts that I have is these are just cute ones. Um her dance is the dance from Run Devil Run by Girls' Generation.
Yeah, I
Which I
love it a lot.
love. I love that dance so much already, so it's very, very cute. And her the first icon for her alt actually had her without her fox ears. Um and then her she is ranked as the first most appealing champion in League.
say that again.
Yeah, for real though. Like,
I mean,
let's be honest.
let's
And
be
then
real.
finally, I have a really cool thing. So you know how we were talking about how her lover was like a painter? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this in the on topic chat.
Bro,
This is
I've been thinking this too, if this is what I'm thinking.
is it the tree?
No, I was
Oh.
thinking of what you thought uh her beloved was.
Oh, like who?
Like who?
Are you thinking Hui?
Yeah.
Dude, I thought about that for a hot second. I did, cause raven-haired painter. I mean, like, come
Yeah,
on,
dude's got a whole
come
paintbrush. It's kind of
on.
hard
And
not
but
to.
now I feel like I need to look at his abilities because are any of them floral?
I don't know. There's 12 of them.
I know.
Hold on. Let me do this while you're talking about your little
So
flower.
yeah, so the what I shared there is it's the a painter came along and painted the tree of Vastaya and all of the tribes of Vastaya and how they branch off. So the base of the tree is the Vastaya Shrey and the humans who then make the Vastaya, which is the trunk of the tree. And then you have all of the different tribes. And there's a very specific branch off with a flower that says Ari, my beloved jewel of Ionia. And so I think
Dang.
this tree was painted by the man that she loved. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie to you, when I was reading this story, like, everybody deserves to go read the story of Ari's, like, venture to find herself. I legitimately was choking up. Like, it was so. I feel so heavily for her in the sense that, like, you've only ever loved one person, and then being that they literally were like, I know that you see yourself as a monster, but I love you anyways. And then to have to go through losing control and killing him, like, dude, there was a tear forming. It didn't fall, but it was forming.
Mm-hmm.
This shit deserves to be a movie.
So I finished doing my little deep dive on his abilities.
Okay.
So his base kit has all of the different colors of his palette with markings, none of which are flowers, but on his W, which is the blue paint, there's one called Stirring Lights, which is 3 orbs that spin around him, which adds like added bonus damage, kind of like Nami's ability as well. So that's the only thing that comes close to something similar to Ari
I
because of
also
her W, which is the Foxfire.
I also looked it up and they said that they gave a picture of him and that like in the Ruined King and that
Yeah.
it's not the same as Hui. However, somebody brings up a good point and says, unless do you believe that some people in Runeterra can be reincarnated?
Yeah.
Also he does have an interaction with Ari because I thought about this when I was writing this up because in the back of Hui's splash art is Ionian trees.
Yeah.
And so for a hot second there, I was like, there has to be some connection here. Like, there has to be some connection. And his first encounter with Ari, he says, something still grieves in you, Ari, white like clouds and ice. And so maybe, I mean, that would be really cool if it was either that they were connected, like if maybe he is like, you know, she
The
thought he was
reincarnation
dead,
kind of
or maybe
thing.
he is the reincarnation. Who really knows? But he, I don't know because I feel like he's not exactly raven haired, right? His hair is green.
It's kind of like a green bloom, teal kind of thing.
I could see the reincarnation thing being a thing, maybe.
Yeah, but everything pointing to like obviously not on a physicality kind of thing, but everything that he normally does, painting, the symbols, the Ionian tree, everything points to him. It's just he physically does not look like her beloved that she remembers.
Yeah, I feel like reincarnation's really it's an option on
Yeah,
the table there.
it could. It definitely could.
I definitely feel like that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much all that I got. Do you guys have anything else to mention?
I do not. I really like this. I
Yeah.
like learning about these champs this time round.
Yeah.
The Vastayans were very interesting. Well, Vastaya plus Lilia, of course.
Right. Vastaya and
Yes,
Vastaya
semi.
alike.
Yes.
Vastaya adjacent.
Of course.
But they all
Of
have
course.
connections too, because
Yeah.
like Lilia's story, or like also like it's mentioned that she kind of when she rolled into the human world, it was during like the Blossom festival too. So like
Oh
it's kind of
yeah.
interesting. Like it's interesting all the overlap, like the intentional overlap.
Yeah.
Of like the flowers. Yeah, we unintentionally had flowers be super big in this.
Yeah, no
Because
kidding.
Rengar got flowers too when he became
Yeah.
chief.
It's interesting how many connections you can draw between just about any two champs in League. Like whether it's lore based or just like similarity in the way that they carry themselves or like their purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Riot just does such a good job of keeping the entire
They're very good
universe
storytellers.
cohesive. Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree.
I like that a lot.
Excellent.
And you know what? Even more comes across as a really good story for next week's topic. It might get a little bit cold at times, but I think if you hold up your magnifying glass, you'll find that our next week's topic is so good, you might have to write a whole case on it yourself. But I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your night. Hope you guys enjoyed the Vastayan storytelling, and of course, our lovely special guest, Choccy.
Thanks for being here, Chocky.
Yeah, thank you so much, Choccy. And as always, remember, Coveys, keep it real,
but
but
keep
keep
it
it
curious.
curious.
Goodbye.